Tag team strikes, we connect through the pain. Rolling 2 dice in the echoes of rain. Hope in my chest, fear in my hand. Armor all cracked, but we taking a stand. Stress building up like the stories we weave. Every experience a mark that we leave. Connection questions mark where we've grown. Not just in combat, but when we're alone. From campaign frames to memories lost. We paying for the truth, but never count the cost. This is Sage Touch. This is Sage Touch. Let the sage. Welcome to the sage. This is Sage Touch.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Sage Touch. It's been a while since we've been live. Adam's here to my left. AJ is not over to my right, but we do have some guests. As the title of the video says, we have Chris and Alan down below, who are the creators at of Incredible Creatures. For those who don't know, the general idea is that Incredible Creatures is probably the first Daggerheart supplement that I remember seeing on Kickstarter that just put a bunch of adversaries in there. Chris, Alan, do you guys want to say anything about exactly what Incredible Creatures is, and what kind of like inspired you, I guess, to make it, especially with how new Daggerheart is?
Well, I can go on that, I guess, first. It's I mean, what it is just like you said. It's the monster manual for Daggerheart at this point. Yes, we had adversaries in the core book, but we've added over 200 more to that pile with this book, and the inspiration from it, actually, I did a version of this for 5e a few years ago, and it went over very well, and it was a whole lot of fun to work on. And the idea behind it is to take art that was created by artists first, and then give it to writers, designers to say, okay, here's a piece of art. What is this thing? And I've been very excited about Daggerheart since the beta, and was very excited to get in. And I just happened to stumble across Chris, honestly, on the Discord, and I said, "Hey, would you like to be involved in this?" And that's kind of where we're at. So.
Which
True
I guess,
story.
yeah. I mean, Chris, I guess the question then comes to you. It's like, why did you accept this daunting task of creating a completely new book for Daggerheart, especially so close to launch?
So, because I was writing for Daggerheart, and I kind of had some background information on it, very little, but enough to where I started thinking I had this crazy idea that I was going to do it myself and just make a book. And then I made a couple of adversary like packets that I sent out to the public for pay what you want, or free. Just gave it out to people along with the guide that I had made. And Alan had asked me some clarifying questions about the guide, and nobody had even given me a single like, "Hey, that might not be right," or "That might be good, but have you considered this?" And then he's like, "Hey, I'm making a book." And I was like, "Okay, well, have fun with that." And then he came back later and said, "Hey, did you want to help?" And I was like, "Yes, let's do it." And that's kind of how it happened.
And so I think one thing too, it's like, with it being with the adversaries in the core book, which is plenty of flavor for a lot of players. I know that it at least left a lot of us who were part of the beta testing, who had been playing since Daggerheart announced it 2 years ago, and basically been using the creatures and adversaries in that stat block. Once it launched, it was basically the same adversaries and stat blocks, which definitely made it for a much more made it a great need for a much more refreshing. And with how successful the Kickstarter was, we now have access to that book. I guess how did you all or how did that process of like building out that Kickstarter and like the expectations going into it? Because I know we hit the stretch goal or we hit the goal for funding really quickly. The expectations that you had prior to, and then what happened afterwards, and kind of like the perspective change, because this was definitely a big undertaking.
Yeah, we at least for me, I certainly did not expect. I was thinking, it would do okay, and we're kind of both in a position where we don't we do this, but it's not something that we have to earn a living at. So it's very again, we're very fortunate in that, but yeah, it definitely surprised both of us with how quickly things are going, and we kind of had to sit and brainstorm and scramble a little bit as far as our stretch goals go, because we kind of thought, well, we'll hit a few extra pieces of art, and that'll probably be about it. But I we actually had to cut that off because it just kept going and going and going, and otherwise we were going to have a 500-page book, and we was never going to get done. So we pivoted to some other things like the cards and standees and the VTT tokens and that type of thing. So hopefully people are enjoying those as well. But
Yeah. So we're gonna get into the actual like adversaries in the book and everything here in a minute, but starting at the top of this thing, you've got a long list of other credits, and I know you have a bunch of artists that worked on. You mentioned having real people make real art, which is awesome. And then some of the writers, I know you worked with Rachel from the Faint Divinities. All of the Pocket Dimension was involved, which both of those groups, we've done a fair amount with them before. And I see that Daniel Tandock, or Rice Combo, is also one of the writers on this book. What did collaboration look like working with kind of these other groups? Was it more of a like you send them artwork of the monster and kind of just say, hey, try to come up with something, or what did that collaboration kind of look like for you guys?
yeah, I just contacted some folks that we enjoyed your content, that type of thing, and gave you a handful of the pictures and that type of stuff that we had in-house already. We had some artists working on stuff later on because of the stretch goals, etc. But and yeah, just said, hey, which one speaks to you, and what do you want? What do you want to do? And yeah.
I remember you sending me a message, and I was like, "Would you like to be involved?" It's like, "Heck yeah, I'd like to be involved. I love Daggerheart. Of course, I have ideas. I've been homebrewing all sorts of adversaries." And then it literally was exactly that, where you sent me a picture. It's like, "Here's a bunch of adversaries," and then you just had numbers next to them. Which ones would you like to do? It's like, and I was like, "There's a lot. I don't know which one to do," and it took me a bit. Before landing on a few, which we now see in the book. But yeah, no, I mean it was exactly that process. I guess Chris, I know you worked on also building adversaries. So how was that building process? And I can share mine after you when it came to actually building adversaries.
So almost every adversary I've built, I've come off of some either like a model from like my mini factory or a picture that I've seen on out there, and then said, what does this look like? What does Daggerheart do? Because I think one of the things that I've discovered as a Daggerheart GM is the words are different. How you do things, how you communicate what they do is different from what maybe I'm used to, at least with 5e, and then just taking those things and trying to translate them into intent. So taking what does this guy look like? Where do you think he lives? What does he do? Is this a prey animal? Is this a monster that like eats people? Like, what does it do? And then trying to convey that through its features. That was kind of how I approached every single one of them.
Which I guess a follow-up question then I guess I have for you is, with some of those adversaries, was there an adversary that was particularly like difficult? And we can probably like, we'll throw it up on screen so that way everyone else can kind of see, but like, and then kind of like that eureka moment for you, because I've definitely had that as a GM.
We probably went through a couple of iterations of the stuff in the Merc tier 3 stuff in the, I'm trying to remember what it's called.
The Dreadmire?
Yeah,
There's
the Dreadmire.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a lot of them, honestly, that we both were writing stuff, and then we'd pass it off to the other one and say, hey, what do you think of this? And then we kind of, brainstorm back and forth on stuff after that. And so, yeah, there's certainly a few.
Let's definitely showcase some of these on the stream for
Yeah.
Dreadmire, especially starting with this adult Merc Drake, which the art, once again, I think it really stands out for the book too. Art here by Edward Comontant. I'm guessing that's
Yeah, Eduardo.
the pronunciation.
I think he's originally from Peru, but he lives in France now. That's one of the fun things about this, was being able. The crew that worked on this book, writers and artists and everything else, are literally from all over the world, and I love that aspect of having a worldwide community be able to do stuff like this. So.
And I think the really cool thing about how this book is kind of broken down is it's not just adversaries, but it's also adversaries broken down into locations, which that's not how it's broken down for the most part in the book. The core book, kind of just puts a bunch of adversaries of the same tier, but you guys put the adversaries similar in the same tier, but actually put a named location. What was that thought process like? Because that makes total sense to me now that I'm seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was something I sat down and struggled with for quite some time, was how do we want to present these? And because we built them in kind of groups, or what we called families, based on one or two pieces of art, we said, okay, this will create one or two monsters, but then we also are building out a set that are kind of related to that. And so it just made the most sense to me to not just do it alphabetically, because nobody's going to know what a Glumloch is, or something like that.
Yeah,
That's not going to tell you anything. But if it's grouped in, well, these are kind of all swampy creatures, or these are all kind of fey forest kind of creatures, that sort of thing, it made it, at least in my mind, and hopefully other people made it a little more sense for a GM trying to pick out, well, I know where this fight's going to take place, so I can look at this particular type of environment and then grab some things from there. So
Yeah, which I definitely think helps the GM, because a lot of the times with GMs, I don't know about any of you who've GM'd games, but there's always that writer's block of okay, what do we need to do now? What's next? And having to scramble through a monster manual or just any book, and having to go back and forth between a monster stat block on page 70 and then the other one's back over at page 14, and you're having to flip back and forth between the books. This, I think, makes it where when you're holding the book physically, which mine's coming soon, which Alan confirmed prior to the stream,
Yep.
but being able to kind of open the book and be on the same page helps tremendously. Because flipping back and forth is a nuisance sometimes.
Yeah, and I mean the reason one of the reasons this is so good is I've played a fair amount of tabletop RPGs and Daggerheart, and as a player, I know that we often do things that the GM's like, "What are you doing? Why are you going there? Where are you going? What are you doing here? Are you trying to fight somebody? Oh, you're trying to
You're
fight
talking
somebody.
about our home game.
Yeah, I mean, usually, yeah. And just having this book like this, I mean, I can only imagine from the GM perspective. It's like, oh, hey, yeah, this is a great time to take a little, bathroom break. Everybody get some water, whatever, and you flip through this book. Like, okay, this is yeah, we're in tier 3, so demons sound good. Yeah, here, demonic hive. Let's see, what do we got here? And just break it down like that. It's so convenient for like actual use. One for prep, but also for a last minute. I need to come up with something. Here it is.
Yeah, I think that's something that like Daggerheart kind of encourages, is saying, what do you guys find? What do you want to do? Oh, there's a swamp. There's a swamp now. And now I've got to get a bunch of swamp creatures. And where do I even get these from? Oh, I've got to reskin things. You know?
And I think that the nature of Daggerheart, because I pose this to my players all the time, where they'll be adventuring or exploring through, let's say a swamp, and I'll say, what do you see kind of bubbling up from the muck? And they'll start describing. It's like, okay, let's see. Flip, 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 flip. That sounds like a bog siren to me. Let's throw that over at them. And with the nature of collaboration with Daggerheart, I think bodes a lot better to having stat blocks so easily accessible, which I'm sure was a thought process of making sure that it's organized well. Cool, awesome. The next topic, and I'll definitely kind of address chat. There have been a couple of comments here, but if anyone has any questions for Chris and Alan about adversaries, about thought process, about anything, definitely drop it in the comments or in the chat block, and we'll definitely answer it as best as we can on stream. But I have to ask the question, and we'll get here eventually. And I guess I'll throw it to Adam, because Adam's had some time to think about this. What is your favorite adversary that you were able to see in scrolling? There's over 200.
Yeah, so I will admit I have not read deeply through every single one. I didn't have a chance to start looking at this till about last week, so I've done my best with the time allotted. But as of right now, if you flip to page 118, there is a monster called the Pettifogger that I think is probably going to be my favorite. I don't know who came up with this one. Art by Sago. The artwork got me to stop and look at it because it just looks like this intellectual fawn creature with a bunch of scrolls and paperwork. And the stat block on it,
because everyone loves paperwork.
Yeah, I mean, paperwork is the number one enemy to most adults. So having this paperwork monster, obviously, you know, this is tier 4, so it's a pretty powerful monster. High thresholds, all that stuff. The features are what got me to stop and look at it. So Relentless, we see that a lot, like Relentless 2, Relentless 3. This was Relentless X plus 1. And I was like, what does that mean?
Variable Relentless is a nutty concept, by the way.
Yeah. The first time this creature attacked you once, and then a few more actions go by, and all of a sudden it's going 3 times in a row.
What do you mean he has 4 actions? He had 3 actions last turn.
The whole concept of the monster teleporting around the battlefield and just kind of offering these like sly deals to all the different players, like, hey, I'll mark an HP. You just have to reduce your evasion by 2 until your next rest. All these little things that are just cool. It's such a cool mechanic that he kind of bounces around the battlefield, tries to strike these deals, and if a player doesn't accept the deal, then they mark 3 stress. And roll their fear die, and you gain fear equal to the roll. I missed that part too. Whew. Holy cow. Yeah. Well, it's tier 4, so it's to be expected.
Yep.
he's got
Don't worry,
a
the players have plenty to throw at this thing, but
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
this is much needed.
Yeah,
that's sort of what we looked about with tier 4. I was concerned about balance a little bit, and Alan's like, it's tier 4. It's crazy. It doesn't matter. Let's just throw everything against the wall.
Yeah, and really with like any tabletop RPG, it really becomes that. Once you hit those high tiers, your players like, we are gods among men. And so you must, as a GM, throw them gods back.
Yep.
Yeah, fair enough. Obviously, there's a couple more things on the stat block, but one I want to highlight is the ability for you to spend 2 fear to write something into existence, which is very open-ended, but you could make a chasm that splits the battlefield in half, summon other allies and aid in the battle. He's got another ability about marking people with, like, racking people up with red tape, which is hilarious. Making them restrained, a lot of cool things, and 3 times per scene when a PC fails with fear within far range, the Pettifogger clears an HP. Which
Nuts.
he's already starting with 10, got the opportunity to clear 3 more, and then every time somebody spends hope within far range, he clears stress equal to the number of hope spent. So when you go tag team roll, he's gonna clear 3 stress on top of that. So very cool monster. I'm a big fan.
I think the what's it called? The scumminess part of this is just the deal you make. It's like, I'll give you an HP if you reduce your evasion. Okay, I'll take that HP back.
Yep.
It's as a GM, it's very delicious, but as a player, I can't wait to throw the Pettifogger at some point. It's going to happen in a game. So
Well, I'm
yeah.
very glad you like it. This was one of the fun ones that I did, and
You're the one who came up with this, Alan?
Alan's got that one.
It's so good.
I had to convince Chris on a lot of this stuff, but
You have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question is, especially because I know that the thought process is typically looking at the art. Where did this concept come? Like, was there any other inspiration outside of the art? Were you thinking about other things out there?
well, no, it was basically the art, and just looking at this creature it's clearly it's all about contracts, and just creating these things, and it's part of its beard there is a pen on either side. It's a quill that it's writing these things with, and
So cool.
yeah, so that's what a pettifogger is actually. It's a kind of an archaic name for a lawyer or what's the not attorney, but there's another word. Anyway, that's kind of what I came up with on that, and again, it was just all right, this is going to be a tier 4, and let's go wild. Let's see what we can do here.
Which I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
I'll throw the question to you two. What is your favorite? I know there's a lot of babies in this. Every single adversary is your baby, but for you two, what's one that sticks out?
Go ahead, Chris. I'll make you go first.
Okay. Because I got my answer easy
Okay.
peasy. So before we put everything out there, we put some play tests out for some of the Kickstarter backers. And the one that got used and the most feedback that we got was the Dollmaker Hag. It is the one that we got so much feedback on and went through a lot of different changes and iterations. And I'm sort of a fan of hags. I tend to make them often. And she is hideous and monstrous, but one of the things we did that I liked was she's a support when she starts out, but then she has a phase change to a leader
Okay.
And I kind of like just the whole. It doesn't have to be a solo to do a phase change. It doesn't have to be a dangerous encounter, because with hags, a lot of it is how do we interact with that person. And so one of the things we ended up doing is kind of talking about, like, if you look at the hag's hut environment, that has what used to be part of the Dollmaker Hag's stat block was her making deals like the Pettifogger, but they were a little bit more overdone, and so we kind of picked through some of those things and moved them into the environment, and just kind of left the Dollmaker like she was, but that devilish deals used to be part of her original stat block.
So for maybe some of the player or people who might be listening this in the future, might be listening to this on Spotify on their road trip, can you go through some of these mechanics that really make the doll maker as devious as she is?
Sure. Okay. I love the Dollmaker. She is actually she exists first and foremost as my home game creature, one of my favorites. She's a little irritatingly scary. So whenever a PC rolls with fear within close range, they mark a stress because of the way she's just so overbearingly creepy. And she's a support, so she's going to be helping the ones around her. And I envision her having some of these living doll hordes, because she's a doll maker, around her at all times. These the totems of fear that she has, and the living doll hordes that she kind of keeps, these almost like childlike totems that are just creepy when you talk about it, when you really expose your players to some things that are upsetting or dreadful. And the going through the way just to get to her hut, you're seeing these dolls in the forest that are staring back at you with their button eyes, and it's the way to describe it just kind of like sends chills up your spine. And so she's going to help them out. If they start getting attacked, she can stitch them right up and let them clear hit points. She can reduce the damage that she takes, and then she changes into a puppet master hag and starts. We went with this theme of like sewing and doll making and having these sort of evocative things that built on each other, from the doll maker to the puppet master. Like Snip Snip being her taking out a giant pair of scissors and attacking in very close range, and being able to take with her strawman defense, just grabbing like somebody from out of a close by living doll horde and throwing them at the party whenever they're getting attacked to stop that damage from coming in, sacrificing her creations for her own good.
This is so mean in every way, shape, and form, and I love everything as a GM about that. Just to throw this at because I think the one thing I love about Daggerheart too is when you think about these creatures here, you might not have this immediately hits Age of Umbra for me, but you can run into any of the other campaign frames. Like the Dollmaker hag could be a spirit or a faint divinity from the Witherwild. It could be when it comes to the motherboard setting, it could be one of the remnants that are kind of out there and they're controlling other smaller remnants. Like the reflavoring and taking the mechanics of this it's really great. And I'm already thinking about, okay, how do I bring this thing into my games? Because I really want to bring this thing into my games.
I think the thing that I like the best about this one is how there's 4, 5, 6 stat blocks kind of bunched together. We got 2 environments. Like this one for the Unseelie Forest is going to take you, or the Unsettling Forest is going to take you to the hag's hut, and then you're going to experience some things beforehand. And then when you get in there, and you can take this hag's hut and use it for any hag that, like any concept of a hag that you want, because it all kind of builds on itself. And then Then you've got the 2 stat blocks for the doll maker and the puppet master, and then the totem of fear. And I think this one we probably worked the most on out of the entire book.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I
I
can
really
kind
hope
of.
people like it.
I mean, I can already tell. And I mean, for those who have been on the channel, I absolutely love environments and including this literally right next to the players rather than having it as its own separate section. Once again, we talked a lot about formatting already. Really just encapsulate just how easy this is to run for a GM. Um, and being able to use the unsledding forest until they get to the Hag's Hut just makes for such an easy transition. So, um, Alan, questions coming to you.
Okay.
What's your favorite one?
Yes, of all of my children, I have to pick one. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to back to tier 4,
Okay.
and with the Otherworld Interloper, Emissary, and Horror, and which also includes the Mirrored Soul. And this was another one that I had to go to the mat against Chris with, but when
It's
he,
true.
um,
I looked at it, I said, mm-mm. No, how does this even work? And we had to like put it on hold for a month probably.
yeah, it was a while, but I yeah, I did. I mean, I went a little nuts on this again, but it's the idea is that it starts out actually as a social, the emissary from some other plane or world or whatever you want to, however you want to do that for your campaign. And there's a they're there essentially to try to negotiate, the space in your world. I think is probably the easiest way to think about it. But at this point again, with tier 4, the characters are going to be very powerful. They're going to be well known, most likely, and so perhaps a baron or a king or some leader is entertaining this emissary to come in, and they ask the player characters to come along and advise, etc. But there's a lot of we have to the turning the tables passive. All PCs within far range of the emissary replace their fear die with a D20 until the scene ends or the emissary phase changes. So they will succeed more often, but they will also be rolling with fear more often.
Okay.
And we have let's make a deal, which is an action. Mark a stress to subtly threaten someone else in the PC's presence. All PCs within close range must succeed on an instinct reaction roll or mark 2 stress. I have others do that once per scene. Mark 2 stress to summon an otherworld commander who appears at far range and is spotlighted immediately, and that's another one of this set of stat blocks. But counter offer is a reaction when a PC makes a presence roll within close range. Mark a stress to impose disadvantage on that roll. You only think you're winning reaction. When a PC within far range rolls with fear, you gain an additional fear. So again, that's where that D20 fear die comes into play. It's you
Dang,
only think you're
that's
winning.
really good. That's messed up, but that's really good.
What? And I was looking at these thresholds, and I was like, man, this is pretty low for tier 4. DC 19, thresholds 22 and 40. HP's not that high, but this is just the bait to get everybody warmed up for the next
Yeah,
set.
exactly. So, yeah, and the idea is that, yeah, again, it starts out as a social thing where you don't know what's going to happen, but the phase change is when they either mark their last stress or HP, then you replace them with the horror, which is as you can see from the artwork, is they're wearing. I don't know if you're familiar with Men in Black, but
Oh yeah,
wearing
yeah,
the Egger
100%.
suit. They take off their Egger suit, and they are now the horror.
I love that the eyes on the art are literally the same thing, and it sells it really well.
She did an amazing job with that for sure. The horror does a whole lot of stuff. That it is a leader as opposed to the first one being a social. But the big one is Mirror Soul. You target a PC within far range. They must make a presence reaction roll. On a failure, spend 3 fear
Okay.
to
That's
create a mirrored soul from the target. Spotlight it immediately, and you cannot perform mirror soul again in the scene. On a success, the target locks the highest recall cost card in their vault and cannot access it until the end of the scene. And if more than one have, you choose which one. But the mirrored soul is a shadowed reflection of a PC with access to all the cards in the PC's vault.
There's a stat below this thing.
Yeah, so this is the mirrored soul is what gets created from that, and what it is the cards from that PC's vault. They take those, and then they start to use them as abilities.
I can see why, Chris, you had to pull him back a little bit here.
Because you're starting to think, how does this work?
This is pretty good. I mean, you're thinking about like you put this thing in front of like even at level 8, like that could be, well, as the name of the show, it could be Sage Touched, it could be the passive, like that you get immediately. You could get not Battle Monster. That's level 10. At Battle Monster at level 10, you're just straight up dealing damage. There's no damage threshold, or there's no rolling for dice. You're just straight up dealing X damage. And to PCs, jeez. Yeah. I'm just thinking about the options at level 10 that have been thrown at me, and I'm like, I get to throw that at you as players. That's great.
And it's a fear generator. It's got momentum.
Yeah, jeez. Well done. I definitely missed this one, and I think it was one of those things like, oh, I've seen Aliens before, and I was like, I'm trying to read through everything as fast as I can, or just trying to find. And I don't have any current tier 4 campaigns going on right now, but this is great. And I already know a campaign that I'm going to throw this in, because I think the one thing that I think is interesting is, say the emissary is like the like, say you use this as the emissary is like the wizard, like that guides the king. Like they walk into the king's castle, and their persuasion checks or their presence checks, it's like, go ahead and roll a d20 for your die. You don't tell them why. That's just what it is.
Yep.
And they succeed on persuading the king every single time, and it's just a matter of time before Mr. Wizard gets taken out. Possibly, or the players get taken out. With this stat block, it could be the opposite way.
Yeah. Well, let's pass it to you, Daniel.
Oh, man.
Talk about our favorites.
Yeah. Let me, I have this bookmarked on a page. So I'm on page 31. I'll share my screen here again. And this is just because of how much I love the core rule book and how you all iterated further on that idea, which are the demons. I loved the demons in the core rulebook. I was like, each one of these feels like greed. Each one of these feels like pride. And you all double down on more demons with different names. And like, I think in a real game, you'd probably like actually name who these demons are, give them like an actual personality if they're interacting with it. But just some of them, like even at tier 2, like I'm just looking at Demon of Gaul that's on the screen right now. The reaction of mine when a PC fails a roll against the Demon of Gaul, you mark a stress, and you can attempt to take their weapon away, and then not just take their weapon away and that's it. You take a weapon away and you move away, which always, and this is my favorite thing as a GM. I do this in any system that I play. I love taking away items from players because they're like, no, 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 I was going to do something with that. And this little tier 2 support that just grabs it, and the great thing about this is it has flying, so the PC or this creature could go up. It doesn't have to go horizontally on the same plane. It can go up, and now you have to figure out how to get it, which always makes like Guardian or strength-based characters like that only have the melee weapon freak out.
To Daniel's point, one of the first games of D&D, the first campaign of D&D we ever played, I was up in a tower with a bow. We were getting ready to like defend an onslaught, and I rolled a nat 1 on my first attack roll. And Daniel's like, yeah, you pull back on the string, and whoops, it flies off. I was like, what do you mean it flies off? I spent the next like 3 turns just sprinting
walking down the
trying
tower.
to get it. Yeah, it's a good mechanic.
It changes the complete dynamic of a fight, especially when a player has that special blade or that special weapon. I think the one thing I really liked was the back and forth between the Demon of Sloth, apathetic, and the Demon of Sloth, enraged. And it goes back and forth. It's supposed to be, you could see the Demon of Sloth enraged one time, and then you see another Demon of Sloth, same exact demon, show him the apathetic version, and then you realize, oh, this is that type of demon. And like you introduce them as the Demon of Rage first, like you out in the middle of the hells or whatever. They fight the Demon of Rage, they take it out, and they shift to the Demon of Sloth. And then later on, you find a new demon that is a little apathetic, and you make them mad, and now they are the Demon of Sloth, which they've encountered before. But usually players forget if they've killed a creature, they're like, oh, there's no more of that creature that exists. And I do love the callback to the Hulk in The Sun's Getting Low here, because it's a very clear callback for anyone who's seen the MCU. And I think there was one more that I just and really just the art. So the Demon of Pretension as a leader. One, if a PC spends a hope, like this is their resource. They love doing this. They love their experiences. And you now tell them, if you're standing next to me, you can't. Or you can, but I'm going to make it hurt. I had an adversary recently that had the ability where they cannot interact with their experiences if they're within close range. So if they can see them, you can't use an experience. And they're like, well, what do you mean I can't use an experience? That's what I can do. And it's like, not this time, not because of this aura that she has. So anytime you tell a PC no, especially in this system where the resources are kind of fluctuating. I love all of the demons. I could go on and on about the demons because I love them in the core book, and I very much love them in this in Incredible Creatures.
So we did have one question in the chat here.
Yes.
About our favorite artwork. I'm trying to find it.
Yeah. Zane, I think CZ Pear Saul. I don't actually know if that's an I or an L, but we're going with it. I know Zane is in our Discord, which also shout out to the Discord if you want to get in contact with us or talk with Alan, because I know Alan's in the Discord. Chris, I know you're lurking around. And if you want to get in contact with any of us here at Bladebound or Alan and have conversations with the process, maybe you want to make a book on your own. I'm sure they'd love to guide you through what that process looks like. Definitely join the Discord, and I'll throw that link here again in the chat. But Adam, what was that question from Zane?
Favorite artwork from the book. Favorite artwork. I think I can go first if you want to. Page 126, The Infesting Lord.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
Was it? I saw the
It's a
question.
great artwork if you're both on that same page.
It's just all the colors jump out. It's just made me stop, and I love the whole like skull undead looking type of vibe. The arms coming out the back. Just very, very well done artwork from Tatiana Kopteva.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Without a doubt, the Infesting Lord's art was both its council spider and its writhing ordnant were. When we saw these, I was like, I know exactly what I'm doing with this. It's going to be terrifying.
Yeah, she killed it on those. They're just fantastic.
She is actually making some work for me for an adventure I'm working on for Daggerheart
Okay.
here in the
Yeah.
near future.
Okay, we'll definitely have to. I mean, if you're in the Discord, we'll definitely have to shout it out once that gets finished, because I'm sure everyone's looking for more and more adventures to run.
Yep.
Alan, kind of same question to you. Favorite art?
Well, I have to go with the adult Mark Drake. You showed it earlier, but in fact, I had T-shirts made for Chris and I for with that one, just because
I forgot to wear
so
mine.
much. Yeah, I didn't put mine on either, but yeah, that I just love that.
There's literally so much great art in this book, and which made it really difficult for me to really kind of settle on my favorite. Oh man, I don't even know what page it's on, so everyone's gonna bear with a scroll here. I know it's in tier 4. It's the. Oh man, hold on. I think it's. Hold on. Let's just take a second. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen because I'm just gonna flip through this real quick, and I don't want to give anyone a headache looking through this. As soon as I see it, okay. It's not tier 4. It's tier 3. It was. I'll place it out here. The Zareleth Queen, and not just the Zareleth Queen. It's also the what follows after the Zareleth Queen, which I believe is afterwards with the Zareleth Dragoon. Both of these kind of combined, these weird out of their extraplanar creatures, really hits home for me because for some reason, and maybe this is because we talk a lot with, maybe it's the reason why Pocket Dimension gets mentioned so often on this channel, is because of tentacles. Something about tentacles, man. There's something about once you say tentacles are bad and you throw them in the sea, throw them in space, doesn't matter where they located in. The Zareleth Dragoon and the Zareleth Queen were art that I was really close to saying, hey, I want to make that stat block. But there were a couple creatures that when I saw those, I was like, I actually have an immediate idea for what that creature would do. Which is why I chose different creatures when I helped with the project.
It's funny you mentioned the tentacles too, because those are the ones that the Pocket Dimension did.
Which
Were they
makes
really?
total sense.
Total
I don't
sense.
even know why I would even bother questioning that. I never actually asked them which ones they did, but that is the most on brand thing that could possibly that you could have possibly said.
Yeah, and we took those. We actually I did a stream with them where they kind of workshopped their ideas on there, and then Chris and I then took those after we were done, and we kind of expounded on some of that, and then I ran them through the encounter that's in the book on their stream as well, and that was a lot of fun. So.
Yeah.
Daniel, you worked on some what monsters do you work on in this book?
Oh, okay.
I haven't asked you yet, so
yeah,
I
yeah.
really don't know.
So the first, so one of the first monsters was not actually what I ended up working on in terms of the art inspiration. Which Alan, you messaged me. And it's like, hey, I think I think we have a different direction, and I think we're actually going with this, which I really love because I think it makes way more sense. So the first one I worked on was the Ashen Stag. It's a tier 3 solo, and let me share this so everyone else is kind of on the same page. So the Ashen Stag, which this is the new artwork or the artwork afterwards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it also came up with an Ashen Fawn. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that we had since we did so well with the Kickstarter, we had kind of some extra funds, and we thought, well, we want to just take this to another level. And so I asked Eduardo Comaton to go through and do some black and whites for us that are kind of in the kind of the same sketchy style maybe as in the core rule book, but these were created after the fact. So we had, in these instances, we had the adversary already written, and we gave the description to Eduardo, and he came up with these, and just again knocked these out of the park. They're fantastic, I think.
I mean, looking at the art now and kind of going back and forth, this is clearly something that you throw in an Age of Umber campaign. You show them, it shows up, and all of a sudden, you cannot breathe. And that's the intent. Once I saw the original creature, which actually the creature in the book, what is the name of that creature now?
That's
In Faru, the internally moving Lord of Ill Will.
What was created for it is so much better than what I would have come up with, because it was a Colossus, and like, you know what, that never even occurred to me, and that is such a better direction. But kind of going over the Ashen Stag, and then we'll jump over to Inferu. The Ashen Stag is essentially just it's meant to kind of overwhelm your players. It's not. It is meant to kill them. Every adversary is meant to kill them, but it's supposed to kill them by making everyone get hurt all at once. It's not something that just targets one thing at a time. Because with its Ashen Trail, it's constantly filling lungs every time it takes an action roll, or filling the player's lungs. The Howl is supposed to be, it targets everyone within range. The Impact Stomp, it's going to target everyone within very close range. And then kind of its Molten Core is, if you attack it and you're within its range, it's just going to splurt out. And its entire thing was, a lot of the times, like, I think with adversaries, and why I think this works so well as a solo from design perspective is, I found that sometimes when you're running a solo, and if that solo is only targeting one person, everyone else is still up. But if you're hitting everyone all at the same time, the players have a much harder time trying to source the resources out, and it changes the strategy that I've noticed from players, where they have to take steps back, and they're like, I can't deal with this right now. I have to work on retreating. And then it causes, say, the Guardian or the Seraph to draw the attention of the creature, which I think solos do such a good. Solos really should be like spreading the damage out, and I think that was the general design philosophy. In Faru, which
He's a tier 2?
Tier 2 Colossus. Yeah, right at the end.
What page?
Tier 2s.
78.
78. That's so much easier. Thank you, Adam. Which Colossus, for those who love Colossus of the Drylands, as I do, this creature is segmented, has features of its own, but if you scroll further down on Inferu, you will see that the creature has each individual body part: the torso, the head, the neck, and the legs, and the tail, all have their own individual stats. For those who haven't played Colossus and haven't seen many of our videos on it, essentially you have to take out certain body parts, and as you take out certain body parts, it makes it where they do not have access to those features anymore, which I think is just so great. Like I'm even just looking at it now with the strike. It's like immune from attacks that are not made with melee range. So the players really got to figure out how to climb this thing, and get up on it. So, yeah, I guess was this either of yours work, like then going to Inferu as a Colossus?
That was Chris.
Yeah, I started out actually. So the guide that I have out there in the world, I used Inferu and kind of like backwards built from the ones that are in the CRB to make the guide, and then use the guide to build Inferu. And I'm because I was like, this guy is so big. There's so many parts here. And he just kind of gave me that same vibe, like the tier 2 Colossus with the giant knife in its head that's made up of a train. And I was like, this guy kind of gives me that same vibe. So
yeah,
that was what I went with on that one.
And I can totally see this being immediately ported into your Colossus of the Drylands game. Like, there's so many like long spires that are in that arid desert that at any point any of those long spires move, and it's like, oh, there was a thing in that, there was a thing inside that spire, which lo and behold, it's just in Faerû. And then the other one I worked on, I think. This comes for me, like as soon as I saw it, hopefully YouTube doesn't strike this down because technically I don't know. YouTube's weird with nudity. But we'll deal with that if that becomes a thing, is the aswang. So I am a Filipino American. And as soon as I saw this image, I was like, I know what that is. I've heard about these things because my parents told me about these things and told me that's why you're not allowed to go outside at night. I like, they would threaten me and say, hey, once it's dark, be careful because otherwise the aswang will come and take you. And I'm like, what do you mean? And then they show me images because Google existed at that time, and I'm frightened for my life. So the entire the premise of this is the aswang. It's actually a lot more comedic, and I think I put a little bit of the comedy in there. But an aswang normally in Filipino lore is just a normal, typically older person or female that lives in the streets. Or not lives in the streets, just kind of roams the streets during the day, looks like any other person, but at night it tears itself from its body, and just begins feeding. Well, actually, at night it doesn't always tear itself from its body. At night, it's just trying to lure people. When you get into this mythic lore, everything's about sex, because its entire thing is it's trying to lure them in, seduce them. And for whatever reason, and the full lore of an aswang is they feed on the genitalia of males, and that's their entire premise. They're a sort of Filipino vampire. I definitely did not want to include that second portion into the lore here.
That
but
didn't make it into the stat.
no.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys would have approved that.
Probably not.
I mean, there's a meme about that, so.
But essentially, it's the premise is it's a normal person during the day, so you don't even know it exists. You try to lure one player away, and then if at any point the players realize that it's an aswang, it has the ability to sever itself, and then take flight. And the players, all the damage is on the upper form, so on the skulking part of the aswang. But then, how it is supposed to regenerate is if somehow, and what typically happens is the aswang will fly away, and the bottom half will just run. It'll book it. It'll try to get away as fast as it can, because if the aswang manages to find the legs, it can retether, and now it's just a normal person again, and it'll take a new shape. Which is why in mythology they say whenever you see legs roaming the streets, because that's common enough, you need to make sure you kill it so the aswang can't find its way home, and it'll fly in the sky forever, not being able to land. That's the general lore, but for the most part, some of the other the mechanics of it really kind of center on this whisper of death, which is you spend 2 fear. The player, if they starts a death countdown, and if that player goes to 0, death move. So this thing's flying. You need to kill this aswang before a player dies, because it's going to just make this whisper of death and then kind of run away, which is a very interesting mechanic for your players to just have social. It's like, no, we need to get that thing. It's flying. It's going. But yeah, that's what I worked on.
Yeah, one of the other questions we got in the chat here a minute ago, which I guess let you answer it yourself. What was the toughest creature to work on? Why was it difficult? And what helped kind of overcome the wall? I know you guys mentioned you spent a lot of time on the Dollmaker Hag. I don't know if that kind of falls under that answer, or if you have a different one that was kind of more of a challenge to work on, get balanced, and all that.
probably, I don't know. One of them definitely was the Ouijits. That was a
That's fair.
that was a concept I came up with
Mhm.
and wrote those out, and then yeah, we went back and forth on those quite a bit, just because they're not for the GM faint of heart. They are a little bit difficult to manage, but I think if you do, they can be quite fun. Um, but the idea behind them is they are all minions. However, if they get together in groups of however many, they become something more than the sum of their parts. And so each of these is a group of these minions. If you do damage to one, you kill one of the minions, then they can break apart and reform with some others that are around, or they just become, if you do one damage, they might just become the next lower grouping. So there's a lot of shuffling around for the GM to do, but you start off with a number of them to begin a scene, and then once half or more of those have been defeated, then the rest of them just try to scramble and run at that point. But each of the groupings has very different things that it can do, and I just thought it would be a fun idea to have these things be recombining into different things all the time, and oh my gosh, now what's it doing, or what. But
I
it
think
definitely did take some work.
we've talked about reflavoring. I don't know about you, but what immediately hits my head is this is just 3 kobolds in a trench coat.
Yep.
Absolutely.
That was the first thing I said to myself too. I was like, oh, I get where he's going. I understand.
Yeah. That age-old meme that surprisingly is not a meme anymore. People do it. There's 3 kobolds in a trench coat is very, very common amongst tables and a shared experience. And so there's one last question because we're getting to that time of the end of this episode of Sage Touch. But one question that some people had was, can people still get adversary cards? Or was that just a Kickstarter exclusive? Or is that something that'll happen in the future? Which I know the answer to, but I'll let you all answer that.
You actually can. They are available right now on DriveThruRPG. You can get them as the PDF, or if you want to, you can get them in the printed form.
And they look
yes,
so nice.
They are available.
Yeah.
And we did it before Darrington Press did it.
Yeah.
You can genuinely say you did it first. So, with that though, I mean, we've been going for about an hour here. We're really right at time. We could probably talk because we have 200 adversaries in this book forever. But if you do want to have more conversation about that, we'll definitely have a thread open in our Discord. So don't forget to go over to our Discord and join that. We'd love to have a conversation with you. But Alan, Chris, is there anything, where can they find you? I'll definitely throw some of the links that you've all sent me in the chat, in the description of the video. But anything you want to share, leak, anything, you know, what might be out there?
I'll go first because Alan's is probably bigger than mine.
Okay.
I've already said it.
Okay.
So I am working on a adventure that is kind of going along with Age of Umbra sort of coded adventures that are dark and mysterious. My favorite sort of stuff. So I'm putting out a tier 1 adventure that's going to have a couple of very big plots that it leaves hanging so that you can build off of that, and then some suggestion sort of like framework scaffoldings of adventures you can do further on from that one, and then a bunch of adversaries and environments that go with it. And that one's called Blind Faith, and as soon as I get the art for it in the next couple of weeks, I'll probably have to beg Alan to lay it out for me and get it out there.
And where would people be able to find that adventure when it's ready?
Right now, I'm looking at probably number one is Heart of Daggers.
Heart of Daggers.
And,
Yeah.
and probably Drive Through RPG are about the two major places. I've been putting things on my Ko-Fi, but those are mostly like the free stuff for everybody to just take and grab.
Yeah, and then I'll ask for any of those links down, and I'll put it in the description here after the live here, since I don't know if I have all of them. But yeah, Alan, I know you had something.
I too am working on some adventures, and not just adventures, but I've got a campaign setting with some, I guess we're calling maybe subframes. I'm not sure exactly what
Sure.
we'll term that, but at any rate, the idea is that there will be several introductory adventures in the book where, depending on the type of campaign that you want to run, you can start with this one or start with this one, that sort of thing. And then we'll have locations and just things, there may be villages or cities or this place out in the wilderness or whatever that will be detailed with adventure hooks and NPCs and that sort of thing, so that you can use it within the world framework, or you can just take the pieces here and there to use in your own thing. And that'll actually be coming to Kickstarter sometime here soon. I'm working on getting a page up for that, but the project is called Fractus: The Broken World.
Okay, definitely. We'll definitely once again, any information that you have here, if you have any more questions, will definitely be in the Discord in the description down below. But yeah, with that, Adam, the last thing that we need to do is we just need to give a rating to Incredible Adversaries. I have mine, which is a resounding 12 out of 12. We're Daggerheart. We don't use D10s. Well, we do for damage. Adam, what is your rating?
I mean, I'm gonna call it the same. I think this is the standard setter. You guys have certainly set a standard of what is to be expected with just the details in the book, the amount of stuff you're getting in this book, the fact
The formatting is so good.
I know we didn't talk about it. You have maps in the book.
Yes.
You have little battle maps. You have settings attached to some of those maps, like, hey, your party might be walking through the forest and they come upon this thing. And there's so much stuff in here that, I mean, this is one of the best resources I've ever seen for a TTRPG. So kudos to you guys. This is fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. I loved it.
With that being said, everyone, that's this episode of Sage Touch. Next week, I promise, or next time we meet in a couple of weeks, I promise we will have a motherboard episode. I know we've been pushing the motherboard episode back, but that is coming. And if you want to be informed, once again, don't forget to like, comment down below, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we will see you all in the next one. But yeah, with that, bye everyone.
Good.
Welcome to the Sage Touch Podcast. Welcome to the Sage.
Tag team strikes, we connect through the pain. Rolling two dice in the echoes of rain. Hope in my chest, fear in my hand. Armor all cracked, but we taking a stand. Stress building up like the stories we weave. Every experience a mark that we leave. Connection questions mark where we've grown. Not just in combat, but when we're alone. From campaign frames to memories lost. We paying for the truth, but never count the cost.
Count the cost, but never count the cost.
This is Sage Touch.
This is Sage Touch. Let the Sage. Welcome to the Sage. touch.